Hello, class. Today we're going to talk about the biblical story in Genesis, the Tower of Babel. Some people pronounce it the Tower of Babel. And to me, I want to use this story to teach students of the dangers of being boastful, the dangers of being arrogant or too vain or too caught up with yourself. Number one, it breaks the first commandment, love God, because if you're so boastful, you're so arrogant, you're so vain, you're so self-centered, then really spiritually you're putting yourself above God. The first commandment teaches us to be humble and to put nothing before God. Nothing. Later on, when I teach about the story of Abraham, the near sacrifice of his only son Isaac, epitomizes that. But concerning the Tower of Babel, I want to wrap it around the dangers of being too caught up with yourself, not being humble, being too prideful. When I think the dangers of that is it puts a lot of pressure on yourself to be ridiculously successful. And at any time that you encounter failure, you're going to be really scrutinized. And then how are you going to handle that? Okay. Failure is a wonderful opportunity to learn if you look at it properly. However, if you're arrogant and you're boastful and people are looking for you to fail, when you fail, are you going to be strong enough to understand that failure is a part of success? It's a part of learning. It's a part of growing. And how are you going to be able to handle that? So I just think when you're boastful, when you're arrogant, you bring a lot of attention to yourself, right? It puts you in the spotlight. And for some people, that eventually is too much to handle. God, Jesus teaches us to make humility over pride, to be humble. Okay? Is there a difference between confidence and cockiness? Oh, yes. Okay? Because someone who is truly confident, there's absolutely nothing anyone can say to them that's going to change their confidence. There's nothing that anybody can say, situations that happen, that's going to change the way that they feel about themselves. Right? So they don't like to talk, they don't need to talk about it. Okay? Yes, I've encountered some people that they're so positive, they're so goal oriented, they're so caught up with elements of success that they're obsessed with it. So they're always talking about what they're going to do. Now that's not cockiness. It can be very irritable to others who don't have the same vision, who don't have the same goals for themselves. So there's a difference between someone like that and someone who's purely arrogant to the point where they're really trying to put others around them down to build themselves up, right? And there's a fine line between that. Okay. Now I know some people who that's their form of motivation. All right, they want to tell others, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to make the team, I'm going to get I'm going to go to university for free and get a business scholarship. I'm right. So they say that in order to create that scrutiny. They say that in order to have other people become negative and say, no, you're not going to do this, you're not going to do that, in order to motivate themselves. I know people like that. So they do it strategically, right? They kind of play tricks on others and on themselves in order to motivate themselves, because that's the only way that they can become motivated. They're not, I know people that they're not motivated by, and they become bored with success, but they're not motivated by people telling them, yes, you're going to do this. Yes, you're great. Yes, you're so successful at this. They're not motivated by that. So they become stagnant. They need that challenge. They need someone to tell them, no, you're going to fail at this. No, this is not going to go right for you. No, you're not going to accomplish this. They need to hear that from others in order to get, to get savage, to get tough, okay, I'm going to show them, and, I'm going to write down my plan. I'm going to do this every day. And, at the end of 30, 60 days, a year, 2 years, I'm going to accomplish my goal. So they need that negative reaction to motivate themselves. I know people like that, and it's worked very, very well for them. But for the average person, I just think being arrogant, it puts too much pressure on yourself to succeed, and then all eyes are on you. And then, can you handle that pressure? A lot of people are really turned off by arrogant, boastful people. People have too much pride. So socially, you can get into a lot of awkward situations, and eventually people just won't want to be around you or be around those types of people. The actual story of the Tower of Babel was that there's a group of people, and they found a spot of land, and they were so proud that they found this land. This is our land, and then they wanted to build up a tower. They wanted to build up a tower in the sky, so high that it can that it can touch God, that they can reach God, or whenever God needed to speak with them, God could just come down the tower and speak to them. Another way to look at it is, some people say they wanted to be on the same level as their God. The people that were building the tower didn't necessarily know what they were doing, and the fact that they didn't necessarily know that they were doing wrong. They were dishonoring God. They were putting themselves on the same level or above God. I would probably say 90% of the people building the ark, they didn't know that. They were just told to build told to build the Tower of Babel, so they did. However, the king at that time knew what he was doing. He was so vain, he was so arrogant, he wanted to build a tower to put himself on the same level as God. Okay, and of course, when God realized what was going on, he became displeased. And he was so displeased that, so they all spoke one language. It can be argued that they spoke the Hebrew language at the time. That's probably not spoken anymore. So they all spoke the same language anyway. So God changed all of their tongues. He changed all of their language. He made them all, say if there's 1,000 people, every 250, or I shouldn't even say that. Say there's 1,000 people. He changed their language to 1,000. Everyone spoke a different language. They couldn't understand each other. So when they began to speak with each other after God was displeased, and it can be argued, put on this curse. Other people don't look at it that way. We'll talk about that in a minute. So when God put on this curse, he changed the tongues, the language of all the people. They couldn't communicate with each other anymore. Right? So no one can say, this is the next brick we got to put on the tower. So they basically stopped working. And because they couldn't communicate, couldn't understand each other, they all scattered and separated across the earth. Now, a lot of famous scholars, and I don't disagree, because there's always a positive inside of any negative or any type of learning situation. A lot of scholars believe that this is how God put different languages on the earth, right? And you can argue that, God turned up a negative into a positive. Okay, and that's basically how it's explained, how different languages came to be was through the Tower of Babel, when the people, led by the king, I forget his name, it's slipping my mind, Nimrod maybe, I think it's Nimrod, wanted to build a tower so high that they could see God, that they could be on the same level as God, and God was displeased. And I believe that this story teaches us about not to put anything before God, including our ambitions, including our prosperity, including our goals, right? We shouldn't be boastful, or we shouldn't be arrogant. It's going to affect the rest of our lives. So it teaches us about humility and pride. I'm sure that you have either been guilty of this, or you know someone who has been guilty of this, or maybe you've experienced a situation where someone was very, very vain and prideful and arrogant and boastful, to the point where they were rude and demeaning to you or others. I'm sure we've all experienced this, and hopefully we learned from this. Now, the assignment is online, and I want you to define all these terms. You're basically going to define vain. You're going to define arrogance. You're going to define pride. You're going to define boastfulness. And you're going to define humility and humbleness. I've attached numerous YouTube links from varying social realms and sectors, from teenagers to older people. When I say older people, I mean more experienced people, to biblical scholars, to priests, to the everyday Joe. And he gives you, a wide array of, experiences and definitions and rationalizations of the dangers of being arrogant and turning people off, as opposed to someone who's humble, someone who works really, really hard to accomplish things, and when they do, they're so humble that they give the credit to others, right? Like we should. Yes, if you work hard, you deserve to accomplish your goals. You deserve, you deserve prosperity. You deserve success. But there are many things that go into you being successful, and it's not just you, right? So someone who's humble puts God first, and say say someone was to accomplish their goals, that along the way numerous items and numerous people and numerous situations assisted them in accomplishing that goal. And a humble person is the type of person where they will address that. They'll let other people know. Oh, it was a great win. It was a great success. It was a great accomplishment. This played a vital role in me accomplishing this. So they'll always give the credit to other people. And dealing socially with your friends and your family and people that you come in contact with, that's refreshing, and that's welcoming to other people, as opposed to you being boastful. Yeah, it was all me. I did this, I did that, all right? Sometimes that turns people off, especially people who aren't as confident as you. Okay, so to me, that's what the story of the Tower of Babel teaches us, is to be careful of putting yourself above God, to be careful of being too prideful, and to add as much humility and humbleness into your life in every situation. At the beginning of this chat, I did describe how when you're too boastful, it puts the spotlight on you. You're under a lot of pressure. You better do what you say you're going to do, or you better have what you say that you have, or right, or you will be condemned. When you're humble, it takes the spotlight off of you, and it keeps it on everybody. Right? So that pressure, that spotlight is not shining bright on you to, either succeed or to fail. And someone that is humble, when they do fail, you're probably going to get more pats on the back. You're probably going to have more people being gracious, saying, nice try. Keep working. It'll happen for you. Keep studying. Just because you studied and you got a C and you wanted a B, maybe you just studied wrong. Right? You'll get people who are more encouraging because you are humble in your pursuits of success, as opposed to when you're really, really boastful and then you fail. That's the nature sometimes of most people. They're going to be negative. Aha, laughing at you, saying, see, you failed. You thought you were this, you thought, right? So being humble, again, it takes the spotlight off of you, and it puts it more so on us as a humanity, us, togetherness. So on the assignment, you're basically going to define all of those terms, and then you're going to you're going to tell me about a situation, maybe that you were that boastful person, and then you failed, and then you said, you know what? I'm not going to do that again. I've learned. So you're going to tell me about an experience, you or someone you know, or someone in history, in any in any specter or organization. It could be a sports team if you're a big sports person. It could be a musician. It could be, anything that you have a passion for, that has dealt with a lesson learned through, either humility or arrogance. You're going to tell me about that situation. Again, the Tower of Babel. If you want bonus marks, you can provide a title page. Those instructions were sent to you. If you lost them, if you still need them, just message me privately and I'll send it to you. Additional bonus marks are attach a scripture reference to your personal experience, and obviously it's gonna be based on the theme, right, of your personal experience. And then you can attach a book. Do you know a book or that talks about, that has a story inside of it that deals with the contextual interpretation of the Tower of Babel, revolving around humility versus pride. A book, a movie, could be a song that you really like. You can attach poem, painting. Okay, so those are bonus marks. Your bonus marks are title page, scripture reference, and book, poem, song, author, painting. Okay. If you have any, if this explanation wasn't to your liking, or this explanation it doesn't register thought, message me privately. I'll do my best to try to give you some examples to how to begin. Okay, so to sum it up, what I'm teaching the Tower of Babel is humility versus pride, and how it's safer to be humble, as opposed to being too prideful, which could lead to arrogance, right? Which could lead to boastfulness, which could lead to a lack of friends. Okay. I'm really excited about this assignment. I can't wait to read some of your experiences. situation that you've learned from. Maybe you've learned simply from watching others and saying, I want to be that person. They're so humble. They're so patient and kind, and they have all these accomplishments, but that they're so humble and meek about it. I really respect that, and I admire that. Maybe you've watched from afar and learned by observing others, and again, it could be watching someone that's too boastful and seeing people walk away from them, and them having difficulty establishing or maintaining relationships. It's an assignment that I just created. I'm excited to wrap it around the story of the Tower of Babel, and I can't wait to read some of your experiences. Again, message me if you need additional instructions. I tell you that this is the first time I created this assignment and my first time teaching the Tower of Babel, because unfortunately I don't have example assignments from years past from students that could help you. So I'm hoping that I get in some really, really good stuff from you guys so that I can use to help future students. Okay, God bless. I'll see you soon.